Most of the time, the ground feels like the safest thing in the world. It does not move, it does not warn you, it simply holds roads, houses, forests, cities, and everything built on top of it. But in some places, that trust is an illusion. Beneath the surface, water can dissolve rock, old mines can weaken, salt layers can collapse, underground cavities can grow silently for years, and then, one day, the land gives way. A road opens, a forest disappears, a house cracks apart, a city street becomes a hole. These are not stories about earthquakes or volcanoes. These are places where the danger is directly beneath your feet. Tonight on Dark Atlas, we are looking at 8 places where the ground can swallow you alive. At first, Mount Gambier does not look like a place where the earth is trying to disappear. In South Australia's limestone coast, the landscape is calm, green, and strangely beautiful. There are gardens hidden below street level, deep blue pools, cave openings, and circular depressions that look almost designed. But many of these places began as something much darker. They were caves. For thousands of years, water moved through limestone beneath the surface. Slowly, it dissolved the rock, leaving chambers underground. For a long time, the roof of a chamber can remain intact. From above, the land may look stable. Then the support fails, the top collapses downward, and a sinkhole is born. One of the most famous examples is Umferston Sinkhole, now transformed into a sunken garden. Today, it is beautiful and managed for visitors, but its origin is still a reminder of how the region was shaped. A hidden cave became an open void. That contrast is what makes Mount Gambier a perfect place to begin. Not every sinkhole looks terrifying. Some are covered in vines, flowers, and sunlight. Some become tourist attractions. Some are so quiet that you forget they were created by collapse. But the process behind them is the same. The surface was not as solid as it looked. And in the next place, sinkholes are not just scenic formations, they are part of everyday life. In Florida, the ground can fail beneath suburbs, highways, farms, and backyards. The danger is not limited to one famous hole on a map. It is built into the geology of the state. Much of Florida sits on soluble rock, especially limestone. Rainwater and groundwater move through the ground over time, dissolving the rock and creating underground spaces. The surface can remain in place for years, even decades, while the cavity below grows larger. Then, under the wrong conditions, it collapses. This is why sinkholes are such a familiar hazard in Florida. They can appear after heavy rain, drought, changes in groundwater levels, construction, or water pumping. Sometimes the collapse is small. Sometimes it opens wide enough to damage homes, roads, and entire sections of land. In 2010, during a freeze event near Dover, Florida, more than 100 sinkholes formed as groundwater levels dropped and large amounts of water were pumped for agricultural protection. That is the unsettling part. The trigger was not a monster storm or a major earthquake. It was a combination of cold weather, human water use, and fragile ground. For people living in sinkhole-prone areas, the threat is not always visible. A crack in a wall, a dip in the yard, a door that no longer closes correctly. These can be small signs of something changing below. Florida shows us that sinkholes are not only remote geological wonders, sometimes they are neighborhood hazards. But in the next place, the problem is not limestone under a sunny state, It is a human-made legacy left beneath old towns and homes. Across parts of the United Kingdom, the ground carries a hidden memory. Below houses, streets, fields, and towns, there are old mine workings. Some are mapped, some are better understood than others. Some belong to a long industrial past that shaped entire communities. Coal mining helped build modern Britain, but underground extraction can leave empty spaces behind. Over time, those spaces may settle, shift, or collapse. The movement may be slow and gradual, or it may appear as sudden damage at the surface. Cracked walls, uneven floors, distorted roads. In some cases, dangerous ground openings can form where old mine shafts or shallow workings fail. This is not the same as a natural sinkhole in limestone. It is a collapse shaped by human industry. The ground was hollowed out, supported, abandoned, and left to age. Water can enter. Old supports can decay. The surface above may remain ordinary for years, until the damage begins to show. In official guidance, coal mining subsidence is treated as a real property risk in mining areas. That alone says something important. This is not just an old story from the Industrial Revolution. It is a continuing issue in places where the underground landscape was altered. What makes this danger different is that the surface can look completely normal. A house may stand on a quiet street. A garden may look safe. A road may appear solid. But below it, there may be a second landscape, a dark network of tunnels and voids that most people will never see. And in the next place, the collapse did not stay hidden in history. It opened beneath a modern city. In 2010, the world saw a photograph that looked almost impossible. A nearly perfect circular hole had opened in Guatemala City. It cut straight through an urban neighborhood, dropping down like a dark vertical tunnel. From above, it looked less like a natural collapse and more like something drilled into the earth. But it was real. The Guatemala City sinkhole became one of the most shocking images of urban collapse in modern memory. It formed after intense rainfall from Tropical Storm Agatha, but the story is more complicated than rain alone. Guatemala City is built on volcanic deposits in a seismically active region, and aging or damaged underground infrastructure may have played a role in weakening the ground. That is why this case is so disturbing. It was not just geology, it was geology mixed with a city. Water, pipes, soft volcanic material, drainage problems, and urban development can create conditions where the surface fails suddenly. In a rural landscape, a sinkhole is frightening. In a city, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a hole in the middle of daily life. A street can be there in the morning and gone by night. Buildings can stand next to a void. People can realize that the ground under a neighborhood was changing long before the collapse became visible. The Guatemala City sinkhole is a reminder that urban land is not automatically safe just because it has concrete over it. Sometimes concrete only hides the weakness. And in the next location, the ground did not just open under a street. It began swallowing trees, water, and an entire community's future. In the wetlands of Louisiana, the warning signs came before the ground opened. Residents near Bayou Corne reported strange bubbling in the bayou. There were tremors, there were smells. Something beneath the surface seemed wrong. Then, in August 2012, a sinkhole appeared. At first, it was a slurry hole in a wooded swamp.
But it did not stay small. It grew. It pulled trees into the water. It became a wide, unstable wound in the landscape. The Bayou Corne sinkhole was connected to the collapse of an underground salt dome cavern. In this part of Louisiana, salt domes have been used for industrial storage and extraction. When a subsurface cavern fails, the surface above can become unstable in a way that is difficult for ordinary people to understand until it is too late. The disaster led to evacuations and long-term uncertainty for the nearby community.
This was not a clean, dramatic collapse in an empty field. It happened in a living landscape, swamp, road, homes, and people who had to decide whether the place they knew was still safe. The most haunting footage from Bayou Corne shows trees sliding into the sinkhole as if the earth is slowly eating the forest. There is no explosion, no cinematic wall of fire, just water, mud, and gravity. The surface gives way, the trees vanish, and the hole remains. Bayou Corne shows that sinkholes can be industrial disasters as much as natural ones. But the next place is larger, stranger, and tied to one of the most unusual bodies of water on Earth. The Dead Sea is famous for what happens on the surface. Its water is so salty that people float with almost no effort. Tourists visit for the mineral-rich mud, the strange shoreline, and the lowest natural land elevation on Earth. But the real danger here is not on the water, it is along the shore. For decades, the Dead Sea has been shrinking. Its water level has dropped dramatically as less water flows into it and evaporation continues in the desert climate. As the shoreline retreats, it leaves behind layers of underground salt. Then fresh water arrives from rain, floods, or groundwater flow. The fresh water dissolves the buried salt. Cavities form below the surface, and eventually the ground collapses. The result is a landscape marked by thousands of sinkholes along parts of the Dead Sea coast. Some are small. Others are wide, deep, and sudden enough to make roads, beaches, and old resort areas unsafe. This is what makes the Dead Sea so powerful for Dark Atlas. It is not just one collapse, it is a coastline changing in real time. A place known for healing waters and desert beauty is also a place where the land can become unstable because the water is disappearing. In some areas, what looks like dry ground can hide a void below. A flat patch of land near the shore may already be weakened. The surface can hold until it does not. The Dead Sea shows how environmental change can turn geography into a trap. And in the next place, the ground doesn't just collapse into holes, it opens into a world so vast that China gave it a name meaning heavenly pit. In Chongqing, China, there is a hole in the earth so large that it feels less like a sinkhole and more like a missing piece of the planet. This is Shaozhai Tian Keng. The word Tian Keng is often translated as heavenly pit. It refers to giant, steep-walled depressions formed in karst landscapes, usually in carbonate rock, over extremely long periods of time. Shaozhai Tian Keng is among the most famous examples in the world. Its scale is difficult to understand from numbers alone. Sheer cliffs drop down into a vast green world. Vegetation grows deep inside. Water moves through hidden systems below. From the rim, the bottom can feel impossibly far away. Unlike the sudden urban collapses earlier in this video, Shaozhai Tian Keng is not a fresh disaster scene. It is a natural wonder shaped by karst processes over time. But that does not make it harmless. Steep walls,
Loose rock, hidden caves, underground rivers, and difficult access can all create serious risks under certain conditions. Places like this remind us that collapse is not only destruction. Sometimes it becomes a landscape. A tiankang is what happens when the underground world becomes visible. The surface breaks open and the hidden architecture of the earth is exposed. Shaozai Tiankang is beautiful, but it is also a reminder of scale. The ground can fail in a backyard, it can open in a city street, or it can create a void large enough to hold its own forest. And for the final location, we return from a natural wonder to a living city, where mining, salt, water, and time have made the ground itself uncertain.
Berezniki is not a ghost town. It is a city. That is what makes it so unsettling. In Russia's Perm Krai, Berezniki grew around one of the world's major potash mining regions. Potash, used in fertilizers, comes from underground salt deposits. For decades, mining created a vast industrial landscape below and around the city. But salt and water are a dangerous combination. When water enters underground salt workings, it can dissolve what was left behind. Caverns can weaken, roofs can fail, the ground above can begin to subside or collapse. In Berezniki, large sinkholes and subsidence linked to mining have damaged parts of the city and surrounding industrial areas. Some openings have been enormous. Buildings have been threatened. Infrastructure has had to be monitored.
The city has become a striking example of what happens when a major urban area sits above unstable underground mining zones. This is not the sudden shock of Guatemala City. It is not the scenic collapse of Mount Gambier. It is not the coastline of the Dead Sea. It is a long-term conflict between a city and the emptiness beneath it. The most disturbing thing about Berezniki is that the danger is not limited to one moment. It is a continuing relationship between surface life and underground failure. People may live, work, and move through a city where certain areas are shaped by what has happened below. The ground does not have to disappear all at once to become frightening. Sometimes it changes slowly. Sometimes it warns through cracks, measurements, evacuations, and fenced-off zones. And sometimes the map of a city has to be redrawn because the earth underneath it can no longer be trusted. Sinkholes are frightening because they break one of the oldest assumptions humans have, that the ground will hold. But these places show that the surface is only the final layer of a much deeper story. Beneath our feet, water moves, rock dissolves, salt disappears, mines age, caverns grow, pressure builds, and for years, everything above can look normal, until it does not. Mount Gambier shows the beauty left behind by collapse. Florida shows how common the danger can become. Britain's mining zones show the legacy of what humans removed from the earth. Guatemala City shows what happens when urban life meets unstable ground. Bayou Corne shows an industrial disaster unfolding in a swamp. The Dead Sea shows a coastline collapsing as water disappears. Shaozai Tiankang reveals the scale of karst worlds below. And Berezniki shows what it means when a city has to live with the void beneath it. These are not just holes in the ground, they are warnings from below. This is Dark Atlas, and sometimes the most dangerous place on the map is the place directly under your feet.